Alrighty. What up, y'all? What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? It's 5-3-23. You feel me? I tried. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go over the trade ideas for today, and let's get right into it. Let's start up with the NASDAQ. Good old NASDAQ. Alright, so there were some particular areas that I was looking at lower time frame, right? But if we recall, what we were looking at here was this red line, and this red line is at approximately, let's go ahead and, we do have a lot of numbers going on in here, you know? Maybe, let's do this. Yes, okay, so 13,238.6 points. This red line, we saw that on a lower time frame, we had a body close above it. And this body close was saying, okay, well, maybe we're looking for a pullback at this point. And so what we ended up doing was we ended up zooming in. By the way, I will say I wasn't looking at this, unfortunately. Instead, I was looking at the euro, and I took 2 losses on the funded challenge, the FTMO challenge account, which was unfortunate for me. But that's continuing to reinforce that maybe I should lower the amount of pairs that I'm looking at for scalping, and then start to expand on the pairs that I'm looking at for longer term swing trading. So there is a difference between the two trading styles, and I'd argue that scalping requires a level of focus that swing trading doesn't. If you're going to swing trade, you might as well be in it for a good amount of time. So anyways, we were looking for this break here, and as you can see again, I said 13,000. Let me click this here actually. Yeah, it's not going to show me correctly. It's 13,237.8 is the new number here. It was a little bit higher earlier, I'm pretty sure, if my memory calls correctly. So we saw that break here. Then we saw price action start to, on a lower time frame, start to distribute. So if we go down, we started looking at this intermediate price action, right? So we saw here, body close, right? Body close above. And we said, okay, in here somewhere, this is a zone because we had a body up here, right? And we broke down below this area here, right? This area in here on a lower time frame. Let's go ahead and find that. So as you can see on the 5-minute, what we were looking for was this. We saw a break here, right? Break up. We finally saw a break down, right? And we said, well, where did it come from? It came from in here. Then we were looking for a trade off of this zone here. And this zone here is between 13,266 to 13,270 points. We saw price slightly fly through it. It came all the way up to this wick, which has approximately 13, is at the top of this wick is 13,270, or excuse me, 13,298.3, and price came up to 13,293. So we saw it come up, and then it started to fall off again, and that's what we were expecting, right? So bam, it came down, and we saw it continually play around and move sideways here, right? And we started to form a new bias on, if I'd argued, even lower time frame, right? So we started looking at price action, lower time frame, right? We saw this. We were trying to get short, right? So the whole idea of me putting in these particular boxes here are to look for price action to go short. So we saw a breakdown here, right? We saw it wick this zone here, validating this for sales, but that wasn't good enough for us. So then we saw a breakdown here, right? Validating this for sales here. We saw price pull back up, and we're going to go ahead live here. And it pulled back more than 50%, at which it came down, fell off again, right? Which then we were looking for, this was a experimental trade there. Fell off here, right? And then once it fell off and it broke this is what we were actually looking for. right? I didn't draw it in here, but that. Then we saw price come down, right? Move sideways a little bit, come and tap into it, and then just fell off the face of the earth. So that's where we were last at. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and remove drawings, and I'm going to start from the top. So we're going to go back to the daily. And in the daily, most recent price action, we saw this here. That's this zone. And then we saw, right, we saw a break of this zone here with this red line. So we saw a break here, and now we're seeing price slowly start to move back up, right? But the interesting thing about this is this going to be a break of structure to the top side before ultimately going lower? And so this is the weekly time frame, and this makes us want to believe, or makes me want to believe, right, that we're in some particular weekly zone. But the thing here is that it seems like we want to be bullish, right? Because we see price comes down here, and we haven't seen it broken here. So when I say broken here, I'm talking about 13,722.6 points. We're seeing it come into this weekly zone, and that weekly zone is from 13,000. Oops, come on here. There we go. That is from 13,209.2 to 13,722.6 points, right? And currently, price is starting to tap into that, and this is on the weekly. So if we we go down, right, and we move to the left a bit, we may be able to say, well, hey, we had price actually. This was a larger weekly move up, but if we look at the daily time frame, we did have some intermediate price action, right? And we saw that we could continuously remain bullish, and ultimately, for something like the NASDAQ, that's what I would want to do. So I would want to see it run 13,722.6 points. And so with that bias in mind, what I would go ahead and do is I would want to look for a trade here. And here is 12,789 points to 12,937.2 points. And that's the zone. I want to see it pull back into that zone before I ultimately take a trade, because, again, we probably expected this, right? We have this box, right? We had the body break, or excuse me, the break of structure at a body close. Now we want to see it pull back because we have this long candle to go ahead and fill. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look for reasons to continue short for the time being, right? Because we want to see it go down to the zone that I just mentioned. And so what we're going to do is we see this break here, and now we're seeing a break to the bottom side. We ultimately would, this is just a wick, so it could be some type of absorption or reaccumulation going on here to continuously go higher, right? So maybe you drop down like this, and maybe it doesn't even come all the way down to the zone, which is what we want to see. But then we look, okay, well, where's the next refinement in this area? So we saw that break up there. That's mitigated. So it would really be something like this. So I moved up the zone, and the area that I moved it to was 12,897 points to 12,969.3 points. And so we want to see price come into that particular area before we look for a buy. Until then, we are thinking price is starting to dribble down to the downside. So we're going to go down to the 1 hour time frame and look at what price is actually doing. And we might see some additional refinements down here. So see price break up here, large wick. This is at the open. This has a large. And as I'm looking at this now, starting to see price fell down at this area, then it broke above. This is you have to look at the screen for this. So price was moving down here, right? Pretty. Whoops, that's not the correct representation there. Boom, started moving down here. sideways, right? Break that, and it falls all the way off. And it just starts moving sideways again, and it finally makes a large move up, right? So this could be on a lower time frame, right? And this is intermediate price action or intermediate structure. And as you can see here, right, this was the large weekly zone, or as we call it, MV. We saw price break up here, so then we're looking for the unmitigated zone in here. And what I see on the 1 hour is I see an unmitigated zone here. And of course, this zone was on a higher time frame. The previous one that we just mentioned, where I moved it. It was like on a 4 hour, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and move these in so we can see them on lower time frames. All right. So it looks like there's still a lot of price to be filled here. And so we see it barrel up. And we see this last zone left behind here. Everything in here looks pretty much mitigated. If you look at this is large wick up, came back down, had a nice bout of indecision. It opened up and it mitigated the remainder of this zone here. So really what I want to see is price ultimately come down all the way to here. And this is what, when you start to refine it, you start to look lower time frames, you may have a bias change, as I am here, because this looks better, right? It opens up, there's completely unmitigated, right? We want to see a pullback, but we don't want to continue. We don't want to go to all-time highs right now with the NASDAQ and the current state of the quote-unquote economy. And this is purely based off of some fundamental thoughts here and not all completely technicals. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. I'm going to clean up the chart a bit. I'm going to go ahead and put some text here. Actually, we'll leave it like that. I'm going to go ahead and remove this because we refined it down to here of this larger zone. And ultimately, we see the bright breaks, right? And we finally see a large breakdown. So if, again, we were counter trend trading, the trend to me is up, right? Green, bullish. But if we were to counter trend trade, we see not very many. The zone I would be looking for is probably up here. I'd probably be looking for something like that. And the reason why is because I see this zone, I see how most of it mitigated. I only see this pretty much open, right? It mitigated about maybe less than 25% and it fell off. Tried to come back, but it didn't end up being able to. So then we can go down time frames, and then you still see certain things, right? Like almost 50% here, open. This looks a bit more mitigated on a 30-minute time frame. I'd say if I was going to look for a short-term time frame, short, I'm still going to leave that top one. I think that is probably the most probable. But ultimately, we could say maybe something hidden in here. Oops. And again, when price comes to these zones, we want to go ahead and validate. This looks like it might be a bit probable. Looks like price is starting to stop here. So what we want to see is we want to see it come into here on a lower time frame, right? And we want to see it come in and break down pretty aggressively and then come back and retest. All right, so for the NASDAQ, we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. We're going to move on to the euro. Let's go ahead and recount. So I did take a few losses in here. And those losses on my FTMO trial challenge, really, they're a little bit bigger than I expected. I previously used 0.05 risk man or 0.05% of equity for risk, but then for some reason I would use 0.5, half of a percent. which is what I should be using the entire time. And I took 3 losses yesterday. So, and it was off of very low time frame short scalps, but as you see, price is coming up into here. We see it starting to wick down, but we don't ultimately see it breaking any structure. Yeah, we don't see a body close strong on either side. So we're just going to wait. We're going to wait on Euro. And I'm kind of jaded on it right now. All right, so we're going to look at gold. Gold had a nice up move yesterday. Very, very nice. Extremely nice. So I'm going to go ahead and remove what we have right now because to me, right, we have price. Ultimately, we want to see price run to all-time highs. I think this is where gold's at the moment. So let's go up to the higher time frame. Let's go up to the daily. And if you recall, we had these 2 areas, 2075 and slightly shorter 2075, 2070. So $5 differential, and prices starting to move up there. And I think ultimately we want to run all-time highs given the current climate of the world. Gold is probably going to go up in value. So I want to see it continue to go up in value. As you see, boom, breaks above, breaks down, nice body close. And finally, we're breaking back above. So if I say body close here, right? So then that will be valid, right, for sells off of this. And yeah, we had this body close. So then it came from up here. And then now we saw it close above here. So now body right above this area here. You want to be looking at the screen for this. All right, so now I'm looking to trade this zone 1978 to 1985. And I'm looking for price to come back into that zone before continuing to move higher. And that's pretty much going to be my simple synopsis. I'm going to be patient on these, going a bit more patient on this going forward, just so I'm not taking all these unnecessary losses. Yesterday, the analysis was I actually was a bit impatient, and I took losses because I wasn't waiting for it to get exactly to my zone, and ended up doing what I wanted it to do, but I didn't wait. So always wait. All right, and that is going to actually conclude what we're looking at today. Let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin because Bitcoin is always something interesting. Right now, I mean, Bitcoin looks very, very bullish. Boom, bulls. I think it's this zone right here. We want to see, if anything, before we started thinking about trades, we want to see a break out of this range. It's a pretty large range here, so that we can validate for either sells or buys in one direction. But ultimately, this looks like it's bullish. This looks like it's bullish to me, right? For now. So how far can it remain bullish? I think we run this high here. And this high here is $32,383.96. So I think we ultimately do come and run this high. Yeah, I think right now, if we go down a lower time frame, we see it moving slightly sideways, moving up. We saw a breakdown, so now we theoretically could be in bearish price action. But I think, yeah, this is quite unpalatable for me. It's not very good looking price action here. It doesn't look great at all. Because there still is a lot of room to move down to go and have a larger pullback before going higher. But I think right now the price it's so bullish. And I'd look for reasons to continue to go bullish here. Up, right? We see this body close. We don't see quite a body close here. We see move sideways. Yeah, it's just very wicky. Very, very wicky. Right, up. We see this here. I think if I'd be looking for a trade, let's go ahead and move down a bit more and see if there's any nice looking zones. There really aren't. Everything here doesn't look very good. based on the way that I trade. So I'm not gonna make any ideas on this. It doesn't look very good. So there's tons of other markets to trade. We already looked at a few. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. As always, like, comment, and let me know what your thoughts are. Right? Let me know what you think about these markets. Do they look like trash right now? Is the NASDAQ gonna go to the moon? Is Bitcoin gonna fall into the pits of Tartarus? Go ahead and leave that in the comment section. And as always, y'all have a wonderful week. It's your boy B Phil. Peace.